Go ahead, I'll make it.
I'm gonna call this select board meeting on Monday, April 18, 2022 to order. If you join me, stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America.
Recording in
To the
progress.
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first thing we're gonna go through is the warrants. I have the general fund warrants in the amount of $53,571.37. Pretty much nothing really stuck out. Run-of-the-mill stuff. If somebody would make a motion to approve the general fund warrant dated April 14, 2022, in the amount of $53,571.37.
So moved.
Second.
You can't second
Any
that.
further discussion?
Sorry.
All in favor?
Who made that motion? I'm sorry.
I did.
Brendan and Jeff seconded.
Thank you.
Before we get too far, can we amend that agenda to add the town hall?
Yeah, I had that down here too, Carrie.
Yeah.
So we have, Sheriff Longevan supposed to be here tonight, or John Grismore, and we have Natty Root here to do the town hall update. If anybody would make a motion to add those two items to the agenda.
So moved.
And,
Where do you want them?
we can put them,
Under the town manager?
yeah, we'll do that first thing on the town manager. Do I hear a second? Anybody a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Brendan, you have the payroll and the,
I've got two payroll warrants. One is quite a bit higher than the other because of our quarterly disbursements to the fire department. So the normal one is April 15th, 2022, in the amount of $24,151.30. The abnormal one is April 8th, 2022, and it's $57,000. Long day. $57,109.81. Sorry about that. Make a motion to approve.
anybody have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Alright, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now we've got some miscellaneous warrants. We've got the big infrastructure development warrant, town hall, as amended, dated April 18th, 2022. It's all the town hall cost center. You've got a big invoice to DEW for just under $475,000. And you've got some miscellaneous invoices, Superior Communication, Luciano Engineering, Liberty Mutual for builder's risk, Peterson Consulting for project management, and Freeman for architectural. So the grand total on this one is $492,079.57. Make a motion we approve it.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I've got a stormwater utility warrant dated April 18th, 2022. The lion's share of it is an invoice for watershed consulting, and then you have three other invoices totaling around a grand total of $2,300. It's Aldrich and Elliott, Superior Communications, and then you have a legal cost to Bergeron, Paradis, and Fitzpatrick. Grand total on this one is $15,642.80. Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then we've got an infrastructure, an industrial park warrant, and it's a normal one, thankfully. We didn't have any issues with the pumps the last couple weeks, so it's a industrial park warrant dated April 18th, 2022. 3 Green Mountain Power invoices. The big one is for the sewage pump. That's $710 of our $777.38 total. So I'll make a motion we approve that warrant.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that takes care of the warrants. Minutes. Somebody like to make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of April 4, 2022, and the special meeting minutes of March 28, 2022.
So moved. I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
You're gonna have to vote on that one, I wasn't here at the last meeting.
Okay, so I'll vote aye on that also.
Thank you, Corin. Perfect.
So we're gonna move on to public comment. Does anybody have a public comment? Not seeing any. Number 5, animal control appointment. You see Shelley Barber, Carrie interviewed her, I guess. Currently been doing the job for the town of Highgate for 2 years. They speak highly of her skill set. Does anybody wanna make a motion to appoint her to Town of St. Albans Animal Control Officer?
I'll make a motion, yeah. I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This next item is a fee waiver at the farmer's market. The town has been waiving fees for the nonprofit vendors. The seasonal fee right now is $65. John estimates about 5 nonprofit vendors come each week. That would equal $325 lost revenue if approved. Do we wanna continue to waive these fees, as a select board? That was in our packet.
What's a nonprofit? I mean, who is it?
So like this year so far, there's 3 of them. There's DCF, the museum, and usually the Rotary Club.
I'll make a motion that we waive the fees for the nonprofits. Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And then, the teachers from BFA are planning.
It's supposed to be that
It's a surprise party, so
yeah, nobody,
Let's do it on television.
if anybody sees that,
as a favor to the teachers, if you could.
if you're one of the 32 people that watch this on YouTube, don't say anything. Thank you.
That was dumb.
No, you're good.
Anyways, they wish to have a surprise party and request to waive the park rental.
So,
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I hope one of them doesn't watch that, because they'll call me. Okay, number 7, capital program and budget policy. Anybody have any comments or issues with anything I saw in their packet?
We didn't change it from last meeting, it just, Brendan wasn't here and you wanted.
I think it came out well. You did a nice job. I
No,
like
the red stuff's all the
New.
changes.
Yeah. The black's what was there before.
I really like that the planning commission can interact directly with the department heads. That's nice. So, I'd make a motion to approve it if everybody was satisfied with it.
I can't remember. I think Brian's okay with it. I can't remember what he said the last meeting.
I didn't hear any concern.
There was nothing that really popped out, so yeah. If anybody wants to second that motion.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And Carrie, town manager's report, take it away.
All right, so were you comfortable having Natty go first then?
Yes,
We added- Okay. So our project manager for the town hall is here. The budget was in your packet. So he's just gonna give you an update on where the project is this week.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Nice to see everyone. For the general construction update, interior work is proceeding very well. Flooring is underway. The coiling doors are installed, and interior doors are following the flooring. Equipment startup took place last week and commissioning for that took place today. We're expecting that report soon. Final coat of paint is nearly complete and the accent walls are complete as well. So the place is really starting to come together and look like its final form. Casework install is starting this week, and IT equipment install took place last week. Exterior work has experienced some delays. There were some quality control issues with the True Brick, which is that brick system that you'll see on the exterior. But the issue was resolved positively, and we received 1,500 replacement bricks to fix the ones that were out of alignment. So the metal radius at the main entrance, which you guys have probably heard about before, we had long delays for that, and we finally got the confirmation for the install being scheduled for June 13th. So final clean is expected to start next week, and then they'll get a provisional certificate of occupancy until the water issue is resolved. And to that end, we are pushing forward with the RO system and the associated disposal field that the select board approved at the special meeting. We have to await the final delineation of the wetland to finalize the design, but we're expecting minimal impact from that. It looks like the selected location should line up pretty well with the anticipated delineation. Final pricing is still taking place on that system, and the total budget impact is unknown right now, but it is going to be, fairly significant. And because of that, we're waiting off on buying out the final owner cost items, which are the AV system and the roadside sign. We are getting the signs priced right now, and as soon as the cost for the RO system is locked in place, we'll bring that to the select board and decide whether to move forward with it at that point. So the current DEW pay application reflects 83% completion. And the contingency items from April to this point are 50% deposit on the phone system through Integrity. The equipment cost for the IT system, which is through Superior. And we did decide to provide temporary internet service through Comcast for the contractors so that they're able to take their trailer off-site and save on some general conditions costs. And another contingency item that you'll have seen the invoice for was the design work for the RO system through Sam Reggiana. And that's actually all I have right now. Any questions?
So what's the deal? I mean, on this RO, you say you're all finished inside, aren't you gonna have to tear some stuff up to put that in?
That's a good question. Yeah, the piping for the effluent coming out of the RO system is going to go up and through the drop ceiling. So it should have pretty minimal impact to the interior. On the south wall, the pipe will be coming down to exit the building, and there'll be a chase built around that.
Inside a closet.
Yeah.
The tank itself is going, and all the other plumbing is going in a room that previously we thought was going to be almost too big, but now it's should fit in that room.
Yep,
Sprinkler room, I think what we called it.
It'll be right sized for it. So
the other thing that, I mean, Jack and Jeff might not be aware is we did the commissioning, which is a state required building code now. We have to basically, I'm going to oversimplify this a lot, but check the efficiency of the building. And we were required to do that. So we hired someone separate from DEW and any of the other subs to check the efficiency of the building. And that's what happened today.
and that's the consultancy is called Rush Meadow Consulting. And we still have to do some work to lock this in as well, but we may be eligible for some incentives through Efficiency Vermont. So far, I'll just say from what we've seen, it is a very high performing building though, very tight.
Any other questions?
That's a small detail.
Okay.
Good.
We have Haley and Jeremy on here, so I'm gonna, and I don't see the sheriff or John, so I think we're good, Natty. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Have a good evening.
Hey Natty, if you're gonna be in the town hall at all this week,
Yes, yep.
it'd be real sweet if you could go through it and take maybe a dozen or so pictures and just email them to us. I haven't been in since last time we took a tour. I don't
Okay,
have-
yeah,
I don't
I'd be
have
happy to
time
do that.
meet you, so that'd be cool. Thank you.
So we're gonna go to Haley and Jeremy of KAS. They have been evaluating the soil at our old DPW. This project started quite a while ago, so that's kind of why I was hoping you guys could come and just give us a brief overview of where we've been, and then hopefully what the next steps are and what we can do going forward. Seems to
Sure.
be a lot of choices, so.
I'm Haley, and I'm the project manager at CAS for this job, and Jeremy is our environmental program manager. We started work on this site in August of 2020 by doing a phase 1 and phase 2 environmental site assessment, where we looked at historical records as well as sampled some soil and groundwater in key areas where there was the bulk oil storage facility on site. And we did find some soil contamination and groundwater contamination that's consistent with maybe spills or leaks from petroleum products there. So we've visited a couple different times as part of more site investigations as required by the state's Vermont Department of Environmental Conservation's rule for investigating contaminated properties. And we've installed some groundwater monitoring wells there to try and delineate the sort of contaminated groundwater plume that's under the site. And so far, we've basically, and soil contamination as well. And we've kind of delineated the contamination as far as like, it doesn't go to all the way to the lake. So that's good. It doesn't go south, we don't think, towards Wharf Street. And where our next steps would be installing some more sampling points to the north and east to get some more data to show the state that we have the plume fully delineated and that we can say the contamination is not traveling off the property, basically. And we haven't identified any, risks to any like sensitive receptors or human health, because the building on site isn't used for like any human occupation really. But if it were to be used as like a residential or an office, there's a chance that petroleum vapors could go into the building, but that's easily solved by like a type of system we can put in, but that's a conversation for another time. So where we're at is we've submitted our most recent report. I think I submitted that maybe like a month or 2 months ago, and we're waiting for the state manager to review that plan and give us the go-ahead to install a couple more wells to try and delineate the petroleum plume.
Good job summarizing a couple years worth of work.
Yeah, another thing I should mention is the soils here it's underlain by like a marine clay that it prevents contamination from getting farther down vertically in the soil too, so that's a good thing at the site as well.
But Carrie, was many moons ago we had said that when we hit a certain threshold, I think it was like around 25,000, that there was a revolving fund from the state that would reimburse us for these expenses. Is that
Yes,
the case?
you've reached that. It's $10,000.
Okay.
And that was reached. So now all our work is being reimbursed by the State Petroleum Cleanup Fund. So it is of no cost to you at this point.
Okay.
So all the contamination on this site, this picture you got, this green thing around the salt shed there.
Yep.
Is that where the so-called plume is?
The plume is that the yellow part, that's where it's concentrated. Sort of to the northeast of the salt sand shed.
Mhm.
And the green, all that where it says ND, that's non-detect, so there is no contamination in those wells, you know, by Lake Champlain or by the southern property line.
So in other words, like the salt hasn't really done any damage. So-
Well, I guess we didn't test we're not testing for the impacts of the salt per se. It's the impacts of the petroleum bulk facility that was storing fuel there.
So in this day and age here, we can't go after Exxon Mobil to clean it up?
I don't know, you could try.
Throw a little blue
But-
dawn down all the monitoring wells to clean it right up. But so if we put these couple more monitoring wells and we get it firmly delineated, is there any type of remediation that has to be done, or is that just okay? We've mapped it, we know what's in the ground, we're not going to develop around it, or what's the next step after that? I guess is my question.
Usually, I mean, if it's not, yeah, our main goal right now is to delineate it and show that it's not going off property, that's all staying on the property where it originated. And if we can show that it's not impacting any human health or obviously it's not, like I said, it's not impacting the lake, then it's not likely that they would require any corrective action or remediation.
If we're
Usually,
required, what would it look like though? Like how do you clean something like that up? And
Dig it up, take it to somebody else's land.
yeah, there's a number of things we can do. I will say this plume, in terms of like concentration of like severity, it's not a very concentrated or like high priority one in my opinion, but
I'm just thinking with all the federal brownfield dollars available, it might make sense to do it now versus, if the laws get stricter in 20 years and all of a sudden all the federal money's dried up, but the law says you have to clean it up then, might make sense to do it with federal money now. I don't know.
that's true. Yeah. I mean, the technologies for cleanup, they range from literally just digging up the contaminated soil in the source area, which sometimes is the best option because you can really remove it all at once, and that usually helps clean things up pretty well, but it is expensive to obviously truck and dispose of the contaminated soil at an approved facility. And then we have other methods like a system that pumps air into the ground to promote oxygenation and cleanup. There's like injection materials where we can inject carbon or like certain nutrients that are going to speed up the natural processes that that get rid of this kind of contamination. But yeah, we could talk about if that's something you want to take on, but I don't think the state is going to require it of you at this point.
That yellow area there, you got to estimate how many yards that is? You're down, what, 9 feet on your borings? 10?
Yeah, I can't think of an estimate right now, but yeah, it's definitely cleans up by 10 feet deep, so nothing beyond that, because that's where.
So I think our caviar dream, and I don't know, I can speak for the two newest board members, but would be to turn that, and it would require some dredging, I'm sure, but into a boat launch to take some stress off Hathaway Point. So maybe there's some possible way forward where we only have to remediate some of it, or if we cap that portion of pavement and then put a ramp in somewhere else and we avoid that area, we don't even have to touch it. I guess I'm not.
Yeah, that's possible.
But if he was to pave that over, would that count? As long as it
I mean,
hasn't moved in 50, 60 years, I mean, what's gonna happen?
The samples didn't look like they were extremely high. They're
No.
just a little high.
Right.
Right, yeah, they're not, yeah, screaming hot, that's what we say, but they are above standards. As long as we can monitor it every year or every couple of years, that's important to make sure it's naturally cleaning up. So we just have to keep wells on site. That's pretty easy to do. They're just slotted PVC that's in the ground with a little flush road box cover.
Now, while you were drilling around there, you didn't hit any good water, did you?
What do you mean, for drinking?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
No,
That easy.
we were looking for water for our town hall, which is south, but
Okay.
yeah, different.
Yeah, didn't you guys install a supply well across
Oh, yeah.
the
Oh, we
road?
did.
I think they drilled it too deep.
Oh,
Yeah, they hit a salt deposit on the other side of the planet.
So, just one thing I wanna think about, like, if we turn that into whatever we turn it into, like, I think we need to do the remediation before we turn it into something. Like, say if you,
So we don't have to tear it all up.
yeah, if you're gonna spend
Well, get rid of the
thousands
monitoring wells too, and this ongoing expense.
just clean it up. I'm just I'm not saying, but I'm just thinking out loud here. Before you commit to doing something there, get rid of and then pave it or build whatever we're doing.
It's almost too bad that it's not affecting the lake at all, because then it might be a high priority to get paid for by none of us. But no, we do need to. I think we should clean it up.
Because I don't know how much. It doesn't seem like it's a terrible amount
No.
of yards there. I don't know.
It's gonna be very expensive to dispose of.
I mean, I don't know how big it is, but that whole site's 2.2 acres, and that's a very small
Yeah, it
part
don't
of
look like
the.
it's very big.
Yeah.
Even
So
if
where
it's,
do you put that kind of dirt? Is
it
this,
goes to, New York. A couple of facilities, yeah, New York, ESMI or Clean Earth in New York will take it. Also Casella. Those are the two
would they go
partners
take
we
it up to
generally work.
Coventry?
Yeah, sometimes
Well,
it's
you
approved for
mentioned
daily cover in Coventry.
we can.
So I don't know if we should work on also like just a rough budgetary number to come up with.
It'd be cool. I think we should go forward, and if we can find it, I know. we
If
haven't-
they could provide something to us of what it ballpark it might, there might be some grants opening up. There's a lot of money right
Well,
now
that's-
that we could go after this summer to.
It would be nice to
Yeah,
figure
that's
out a
it.
vision for that property and start some engineering. And I think that's probably one of the projects that we could use. If we spent 20,000 of our $2 million ARPA dollars to get that totally engineered, without having to hit the taxpayers for it, I think that would probably make
Well, I
sense.
think like Corey said, there's gotta be some money out there to truck that dirt out of there.
Well, that's it. Yeah.
Let's do that.
Yeah, we'll look around. I'll see. I know there was a lot last year. I'm pretty sure.
If we could get like the whole project engineered and make that part of it and go for that, it seems like the city's done a very good job of making brownfields and remediating them part of a larger project. And that might be why they've been successful in getting all the brownfield money they've gotten, is because the brownfield is the main thing holding back another redevelopment. So that could be a catalyst to bring even more money in to help get that done.
I'll talk to Fish and Wildlife too. They were interested in this project. And Lewis Porter was the commissioner. I floated the idea of turning it into a boat launch to them, and they stress about that boat launch a lot because it's so overused. That they were supportive at the time, but then he stepped down. But the new commissioner's from South Hero, so I can't imagine he'd know the area pretty well. I'm sure he'd be supportive. But that might be helping when you look for money, because it comes out of that agency. They're all in the Agency of Natural Resources, and that's where that money would come out of. Brownfield cleanup. But yeah, I'll poke around and see what we can apply for. If I just have a budget, I don't know if this is if we need $25,000 or $150,000. You know.
Go for 150.
Yeah.
I don't know, Jeremy, if you want to weigh in, I feel like it would be more like the second number.
Yeah. No. Yeah. If not more.
I think it's more than 25, most likely, with the soil disposal.
Would the city just pulled like 500,000 for Federal Street?
Yeah, but that's probably a lot more contaminated than this.
Well, I know, that's what I'm saying, like, this is not.
That's rail yard.
But an alternative would be, if we didn't do that, which I don't have a problem with doing it, but if we didn't do it, we would just need to get the state to sign off on the fact they aren't gonna make us tear up a parking lot 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road.
It's like, what if you put the monitoring wells with the roadbox covers on there and then something changes in 5 years? Like it's starting to migrate somehow?
I think if we ever were to do a boat launch there, that
They probably force you
we'd
to
be
do
working so closely with A&R, I'm sure all this would come up, because getting a boat launch in there would be tough.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's possible, especially because it's not private, it's a public access, and
Right.
that's one of the few things that gets exempt from shoreline protection. We can get, because it's a public access that we're looking to create. But we'd work with them, and I'm sure they would read this, so.
Well, there's dredging to do, there's a barge out there that one of the marina owners said that he had a quote to pull it in like 2016, 2017, it was like 25,000 to get rid of that. So, I mean, there's a lot of like 50,000 here and 25 here, and I don't know how much dredging costs, but if we could
If
start
they would
to-
allow it, because that was the one concern Lewis Porter and I had was, it may only be like a paddle boat launch, or like a rowboat or canoe or a small boat under 25 feet. It depends on that water and how quick. It's all about the rate in which it gets deep. It's not so much.
Can you cut a ring? Yeah, that's true.
So and then what kind of soil. So there's a lot to that piece.
It is shallow out there, isn't it?
But
Yeah.
do we have any more questions for Haley or Jeremy? Because I don't think we're
Thank
gonna
you.
figure all that out.
Oh, perfect. I'm good.
I'm good.
We're good, Carrie.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much for that. That was wonderful. And I just have a question. How quick can we get to that next level of confirmation about whether or not it's going anywhere north?
I will follow up with the state manager this week and see if she's had a chance to review the report.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Jonathan, I just want to say that the sheriff had tentatively agreed to attend the meeting, and as of this afternoon, I didn't hear back from him, so we can just probably anticipate that he's not going to join us this evening.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll
Okay.
next meeting. Thank you.
Okay.
But Emily did, and Emily's here. So we'll go on to B, which is our stormwater ordinance. I know we sent you guys a lot of information. Emily has been wanting to get this to the select board for some time. We're pushing it now because we want to get your comments integrated into the ordinance and get it approved so it can be all set before we send out our bills this summer. So you want to?
Yeah, ideally for July 1st, which is a short window. I understand that. So I made a lot of revisions. It looks like a lot of revisions, but really the main piece of it is that I took out a lot of the erosion control and verbiage like that, which is going to be covered in the bylaws. And then the other piece that I really think we need to talk about and get approval for is currently the ordinance has us billing for parcels that don't have any impervious. So empty fields that, well, they're not empty, they're a field, but they don't have a parking lot in them. And we're still billing them the $50 a year. That was one of the major complaints, and I think rightfully so. From our initial billing last summer, a lot of people had concerns with that, and really it won't impact our budget too drastically. So I think that's an important change that I want to work through. And I was talking to Corey this morning about it. The wording in here, I still have it worded as no parcels are exempt from this. And we were going around and figuring out how to do that. I sort of want to leave the wording like that so that all of the parcels are accounted for, because in our billing, it goes by the last 5 digits of the span. And it's a lot easier to just keep those accounts, but I can set them to a zero balance, and just not print a bill for them. The other idea that Corey thought of was that we could provide a credit for a parcel that doesn't have any impervious, similar to the stormwater system credit or a farm credit, and just nullify their bill that way, reset it to 0. So I think those are 2 things to ponder, and I guess just whether or not you would approve getting rid of the billing for those empty lots. The other thing, I think moving forward, I haven't done the math out on it yet, but from talking to farmers, I think we should consider increasing their credit. And I would have to really do the math out to figure out if we can do it in this cycle, like in this coming billing period, or if we would need to wait a year to figure out how that would impact our overall budget. But those are the 2 major considerations that I think need reviewing. And then in terms of the language I took out and is now coming in bylaws, my only concern there is that this will be approved, hopefully, for July 1st to go into effect. And I'm not anticipating the bylaw changes to be that fat. My understanding. What's that?
It'll probably be the end of July for bylaws. We're pretty much dialed in, but we have to go through our public meetings and all that stuff, and then the 60 days.
So we could leave this just as is, or we could build in temporary language and just see it like as a temporary draft, at least like any language affecting the impervious lot or impervious numbers on lots and things would be built into this. I could build in temporary language. Just like my only concern is that I want to be able to review plans that are being submitted from big developers or I mean, really like anybody that's building more than a triplex, they're supposed to be submitting plans for review. So I still want that protection. And I've sort of removed it from this draft until the bylaws come out, and then it's in the bylaws, but so it's just. What's that?
We could do an interim bylaw. Actually, bylaws are good once you warn them. So they'll be warned by July 1st.
It was immediate.
Until you
They're
pass
valid. Well, any ordinance is valid until it's a 60-day appeal period. It's like you go get a building permit for a house. You're valid the day of issuance, but there's that appeal period. So anything you do in that time frame is a risk. But I don't know that I see anybody appealing it. I guess are you ready to dive into?
If Emily's done.
I'm done.
Okay.
So I think when this was originally written, it was put together from other existing ordinances. I don't think it was written from scratch. And there's a lot of like Director of Stormwater and Department of Stormwater that probably should be changed to Stormwater Utility and
that was the other piece of it. We've been talking about that since I started, about changing my title, because my role in the town isn't really what a stormwater coordinator does.
Right.
I'm really the department director. So I changed it in this ordinance, assuming that that title was going to change. If not, we need to go back and change all of that
That
out too.
I'm fine with, but should we call it stormwater utility and never Department of Stormwater?
Probably, I mean, you could call it, yeah, one or the other. I think the hard part Emily and I were sitting on is thought in the future it could be more of the Department of Water Quality that included that, because she works on more than just stormwater. She works on most of our water quality stuff. And if there ever potentially was like a direct discharge fee for phosphorus running into the bay or other things from a municipal entity, that they would handle that. And if we ever do a sewer system, it'd probably run for that department. Some of these changed because in our original ordinance too, this ran through the Department of Public Works, and we chose, not to do that. We chose to run it as its own department, just because our Public Works department has a lot kind of on their own plate, and this was just another
So you would,
period of expertise, and so.
we need to change or not change whatever we decide Emily's title so it matches this. I wouldn't wanna approve this without having everything lined up to match it.
Yeah.
And then we need an interim bylaw to make sure that it's right, because this is valid the day we approve it. The day that it's warned properly and approved. I mean, I hate to put the cart before the horse and have somebody come in for a major site plan approval or a major building permit of some kind that would normally be triggered under that bylaw and then not be able to have her review those plans. If that's the intent.
Yeah, well, I think the goal of her reviewing the plans, I was weary at first that it'd be another step in development, but what Emily said when she was at South Burlington, that a lot of times when she reviewed the plans, she was able to point out issues before it went to the state, and the state's a lot slower getting feedback back to people.
Well, the state will approve it with issues. They'll approve it with a pond with water running uphill. They don't care.
Yeah, and so having it done right and having her helping them kind of at the state level, it would actually speed up the state permit process because they wouldn't be going back and forth with the state as much.
That makes sense. I've been trying to build a gravel wetland for a place I've been begging for approval for over 2 years. And you can't get anybody to email you back. It's crazy.
I'm gonna do my little rant here.
Oh my God.
This town, we got a lot of open farmland and open land. It don't cost the taxpayer nothing. We don't need the snow plows, we don't need the schools. I'm looking through here now, we're taking over Hill Farm, we're taking over Tanglewood. I was on the DRB when all these were approved. They were supposed to take care of that stuff themselves. So now it's costing the taxpayer, and we're just gonna keep taking it over and taking it over. And yet the farmers get hit with all kinds of stormwater fees for impervious surface. And we're really, we've been working for 10, 20 years to clean up the lake. I mean, just seems like it's all, hit us again, why don't you? I don't think we should be taking over all the stormwater stuff. It should have been done with the homeowners association. They should mow their own ponds, they should dredge them out. We're gonna be paying and paying for years. It's ridiculous, in my mind.
I think part of the problem that we're running into, Jack, is that a lot of these neighborhoods, the stormwater permits expired back in the 80s. And it wasn't always disclosed to the homeowners that they had an expired stormwater permit. And so they thought they were just buying a house on a parcel, not realizing that it was a previous development. And now they're getting hit with it and they don't have homeowners associations. We're fortunate with Tanglewood having one. But I think we have 2 neighborhoods that maybe 3 neighborhoods out of the 15 or so that actually have associations, and we cannot legally make them associate. The state cannot make them associate.
Went back in their approvals, they were all supposed to be formed.
What, I didn't quite hear that.
When, if you go back in their approvals, I mean, everyone that I ever was involved in, they were supposed to form an association and collect fees to take care, and, you know, keep them in an account or something to take care of this stuff, and most of them never formed them. And, now they're coming to us to bail them out. So all the taxpayers are bailing out, you know, even the ones that aren't part of the problem are bailing out everybody else. I just don't think it's right.
Yeah, I appreciate your point. I think part of the problem is also that since water runs downhill, it's not always the own neighborhood's water that they're being impacted by. It's the homes that are upstream of them too that are impacting them, and now they're on the hook for dealing with that water and flooding issues and everything else. So I think my understanding is that the town took ownership over the last few years, or last maybe dozen years even, saying that we would help homeowners out of this. And now there is a lot of money available at the state level, and more knowledge in the town for how to help people get back into compliance.
Well, that's my piece. You probably won't, you'll hear more as time goes on.
Anybody got anything else?
Well, I'm trying to figure out if we're approved, I guess I don't understand the process as well as I will soon, but why are we reviewing something here and then sending it to the state to have them do the same thing? Isn't that redundant?
We're not yet. That was just our thought. I mean, we can. It
But why
just
would we?
because of our standards probably be more right than theirs, as Brendan said. The state
The
doesn't always.
state's awful when it comes to this.
And then
The stormwater management program with the state at that level is the most difficult program to interact with in all of state government. It is a 180-day permit if you're lucky. It is one of the, not trying to be rude when I say it, but it seems to be least competent staffs. I've got personal experience hiring overqualified engineers to bring expired permits into compliance in old developments, and we come up with a strategy that meets the guidelines of whatever permit number, because there's 9010, 9015, 9050, all kinds of different permits in that program, and you can have it engineered, pay for it, you know, offer to pay whatever fee to bring it back into compliance, put it all in a nice email, send it along. You can email every Friday afternoon at 1 o'clock or Monday at 10 for 6 months, and you might hear back, I'll be in touch with you soon, I'll be in touch with you soon.
So
It's
are you
it's
saying
impossible.
that the town's utility supersedes the state's authority?
Our ability to help people make sure that a plan's actually gonna work. I mean, the plan's gonna meet the state guideline anyway, no matter what.
It has to be signed off by the state, doesn't it? Or
As
no?
part of getting your permit approved, it's supposed to be, but there's not a real good technical review.
I'm thinking more about the retrofitting that needs to happen apparently,
oh,
as a-
that's a different story. So this
as
would be
opposed to the new stuff. The new stuff is,
Oh.
I'm wondering about all these
The
things
older
that are
stuff.
out of whack.
no.
How
those-
is the stormwater utility going to bring those people into compliance?
Yeah, so we just, I mean, Emily can speak to it more in detail, but we just, we had to do a flow restoration plan, and then we had to do a phosphorus control plan. We just finished our phosphorus control plan in the last couple weeks, which prioritized our projects, basically starting uphill, working our way down, and identified those, and Emily's working with these homeowners, you know, we can't force them to be homeowner associations, but like I think of like Emily's already secured about, what is it, $400,000 in grants for Clyde Allen Drive. She's worked on the engineering for Tanglewood. She's working on Grice Brook now. Those are our initial priority projects.
There's more.
And then
There's a lot of them. There's like
yeah.
over 70 private developments in this
Every
community
freaking one we
without.
ever did.
yeah, so they all need work, and and the problem is by letting their permits expire, they have to meet today's standards, which have changed.
Correct.
And so like when we build Tanglewood, they're not gonna be off the hook. We're gonna go for grants, but they're gonna spend $100,000 out of their home, out of their pocket. Same with Clyde Allen Drive. Those homeowners aren't getting out scotch-free. Where we went with the
They're paying a percentage, not a set amount.
So when we assess this fee on every parcel of land, is that paying for, what's that paying for in addition to salary?
That's the overall utility fee. The individual neighborhoods, what I'm proposing is to assess a special fee for the neighborhoods where their shared cost of their individual project will get assessed specifically to that neighborhood, and the greater community doesn't see the cost of it.
So like with Tanglewood, this has been going on since I was in the planning commission over, 6 years ago now?
Been going on for 20.
Well, yeah, but we've been talking.
Whenever they dug the first shovel of dirt over there, it's been going on.
Well, we've been talking about using a stormwater utility or some kind of mechanism like it to solve that specific problem for at least 6 years. And the goal has always been to have an HOA form, a good solid one with a declaration, and that's happened. To have the homeowners come together and have a meeting of the minds and agree to start putting serious amounts of money away, that's happened. There's money in the bank. I think it's in the tens of thousands of dollars, if not almost 6 figures. And the idea has always been to have the town come in and be the catalyst of getting the engineering done to bring everything into compliance, and then to always go for grants. And we did that a few times, and we were, I guess, in the end lucky that we were unsuccessful before Emily came on, because if we had successfully received a grant for a previous set of construction plans, it wouldn't have been done correctly. We've been applying for grants for Tanglewood to solve a stormwater issue for 4 years now, and the plans that we were using when we applied for those grants were obsolete, and Emily fixed them up within her first 6 months here. So the cost went up, of course, like everything else, but the plan is to have grants pay for at least half of it, and have the homeowners association cover 25%, and then the town the other 25%.
Well, it depends on their impervious.
Well, okay, but
yeah.
that was the rough idea going back to it.
Yeah, and so the stormwater utilities budget is roughly $500,000. Only about 20% goes to salary and overhead. I think less than 25%. First year is a little more getting started up. The majority of it goes into engineering, and then saving up for projects. Because what I told Emily when we founded it, it was actually less. When the utility was originally designed with my predecessor, they designed it wrong, and we're going to charge a lot more per parcel, and we were able to get it down because they forgot a bunch of things that you can put the fee on. So the reason you do the fee versus a tax, we'd still probably have a couple $100,000 a year cost to the town. And if we put that on a property tax, that's right to your penny rate. The state of Vermont pays us about $80,000 a year for their roads that run through the town of St. Albans. All the nonprofits have to pay us for their impervious. So
The impact of the homeowner is $50 instead of 5 cents on your tax rate.
Yeah, which is a better deal than what it would have been on the tax rate for the homeowner.
The big thing when this was designed was that we wanted to make sure that it was as equitable as possible to the average homeowner, and that nobody on a fixed income saw, if you get a $250,000 house, which is low in the town, but say you're in for that and you get a 5-cent tax rate, that's $250.
I think the other major consideration that we need to remember is that the original stormwater permits that went with these developments included the roadway, and now the town has taken over that roadway, so we own that impervious. So no matter what, for those neighborhoods to come into compliance, the town does have a cost.
So we have to pay for so she's right, so Hill Farm's a public road, Clyde Allen Drive's a public road. That's our percentage of those projects.
And a lot of these homeowners, when these letters went out, had no, we rolled 20-something permits or half a dozen or
yeah, because they would be looking at 30 homes splitting a $500,000 project. So we're able to go out and get the grants, and then the engineering. Basically, we coordinate the project to help them out, and then we'll maintain it going forward and keep them doing it because things get lost.
I just wonder about how equitable the fees being assessed if certain businesses in town have invested heavily into meeting standards. For instance, a self-storage unit or
so we
any other number of businesses that have a significant amount, Walmart, whoever.
Yeah, so we have a credit manual that gives up to 50% off of their fee if they meet those guidelines. When we wrote it, we did agriculture at 35%. That was the highest in the state. The next closest one was 10% for agriculture. And Emily and I have talked about in the time since of bumping that to 50% with the rest of businesses. But basically it's still, you know, it still has some money in, but, you know, we do give up to 50% to residential. We don't, because it'd be hard to give $25 off a rain garden. But for, you know, people who basically bill over $1,000 have the ability to.
I just think about the people that are already investing a lot of their own money into this already, to have the town come in over the top and assess another fee on top of everything else that they've done. It seems like
So
that's not
this is all
accurate.
based on federal guidelines too, isn't it?
No,
Yeah, it's
trying to
federal
meet-
law.
We're trying to meet water quality goals that the EPA set for the state, that the state set for us, is my understanding.
Yeah.
Is that correct, Emily?
Yeah.
So we have until 2035 for stormwater and phosphorus restoration guidelines to be met. Is that,
The flow restoration plan is supposed to be completed by 2032 and the phosphorus control plan is 2036. Same municipal roads are 2036 also, I believe.
and if we take a
And we
step-
wasted 7 years debating it, applying for grants, getting nothing. If we started 7 years ago, the fee would be $15 cheaper. But now we gotta do all that work in less time, so it has to be more per year. So that's,
Ideally, we'll be able to get a lot more grant funding as we move forward, and then we won't have to raise the fee, or we could even decrease it if we can really figure out how to tap into more funds. But right now, the state is still working on the language for how they're gonna release a lot of the ARPA funding for water quality, so until we know some of those answers, we kind of have to hold where we are to meet our goals.
and I had Emily when she built the budget last year. It was the first year we did it. My goal, I told her that be prepared not to raise it for a number of years, because the last thing we want to do is raise it every year. You know, we'll see what things look like in 5 years, but let's set it at a level that no more than what we really need, but something that we're comfortable living within for a number of years.
So if we do, we're gonna be doing all this stormwater stuff, and does this mean that we basically gotta take over every road that comes before us?
No, going forward, they have to have their stormwater up to snuff before we would take it over. Their road, just like we have road standards now, your road has to be up to date before we'll take it over.
wasn't the stormwater part of that already? Part
Yeah,
of
so
our
the
road is
the
up to-
stormwater has to be.
I think that we've had that on the books and people have said they would do it for.
Well, like Loomis Lane was the last one we took, their stormwater permit was up to date, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And part of, like when, like if someone for, let's say Gricebrook were to reach out and say, why won't the town take that road over?
Well, they
It's,
have.
it's not just as simple as paving it, and you gotta get that whole stormwater system up.
They actually need two, because they're actually in the middle of both watersheds. They need one project for one watershed and one for another. It all kind of that St. Albans Town, School, Gricebrook area is right where the watershed split, so they actually have to do two projects.
Loomis Lane was really beneficial to the town taking over because it helped us in our phosphorus credits because it's a sandier soil up that way. So that it can be treated as an infiltration basin, which gave us a lot of credits.
So we get the, so part of us taking over too means things we don't have to build, because then we can claim the credit for it, as Emily said there.
It's
So
a
there is that
convoluted-
cost benefit. And then what we've tried to do too, to offset costs to the taxpayer, there's a number of culverts. Emily has a plan that can get paid for out of the utility. If our public works guys are going, and they're likely the ones to be doing the mowing and the maintenance, the utility will pay for those hours that they work, we'll bill back to the utility. Same with, I know her and Al have been looking at a brush hog that he may need to do some of the work, but the utility will pay for that, not, you know, and so there are ways that I think the utility could, you know, we're not gonna hire their own crew to go and take care of it. It'd be offsetting public work crew hours with utility money. When we get to that, we don't have many that we have to maintain
But
now,
don't you have to increase the size of the public works crew to handle that new load? Or are we headed there anyway?
I'm not the director of public works, but, you know, I have not heard the need for any more manpower to get us where we need to go in a number of years. I mean, the ponds only need to be mowed twice a year.
I feel like the beauty of stormwater is that it's sort of like our public works crew is really busy in the winter, where we need winter staffing. In the summertime, it's more maintenance related that they're doing. So they can fill spare time mowing ponds and things like that, only need to happen once or twice a year. But Alan or the director of public works can sort of determine the best timing for it and when they can send an extra body out there to work on it.
Oh, you have a,
You got time, Alan?
We've been taking care of the ponds for the last 2-3 years. As we take on more, it's obviously gonna take more time, so.
I don't know.
Any further questions?
Yeah, we gotta get back to the procedural side of it. So you need an interim bylaw so that this makes sense with the bylaws at a minimum, which isn't a big deal. And then you gotta figure out if you're gonna call it the Department of Stormwater or the Stormwater Utility and change all that, because that just, it's confusing to read it. And then I think we have to also, as a tertiary thing, we have to decide on Emily's title, so it matches whatever's in here. And I'm fine with her being a director because that's what she is. She participates in all the department head meetings, so. I don't know, what do you
Yeah,
think?
that's fine. Are you saying that you're good with a lot of the other changes so we can bring them back to you on May 2nd? We clean up the title?
What do they really have to bring, like?
Yeah, because it has to be officially warned and all that.
Yeah, this hasn't been, this
Yeah.
doesn't qualify as that. This is just a
No.
review of a draft. We
No,
couldn't
no,
put
we
this tonight if we
can,
wanted to.
but you're talking about the ordinance? 'Cause
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
can approve the ordinance at a publicly warned meeting. It's not a hearing.
Right. And then the bylaw is the one that,
Oh, the bylaws, yeah, that takes a little while.
but I mean, either cut the review or interim bylaw. I'm indifferent. I think it would, as a developer, I think it would be helpful. But that might just be because of who we have in that position. It could be more difficult if you get put on the back burner. Emily's really quick at responding to people and she's usually helpful if she finds an issue. But I don't know, that, if we wanted to cut that review and save the need for the bylaw, I'm fine with that also. I don't know, what do you guys think?
You know what I think?
Do we really need that bylaw? Like,
If you're gonna say if the intent is to have a review it, and that's gonna be the
Yeah.
practice.
My thing is, you could theoretically keep it in the ordinance, but then you gotta have people track down something else. If it's on the usually when someone wants to go build something, they just grab the bylaws, they don't start reading all your other ordinances.
right,
So it, to me, makes sense to have it in one place.
perfect.
Unless you'd want the bylaw.
Yeah.
It has to be where the people can see, would look at it.
Yeah.
Right, that would be the bylaw, if you're gonna build something that's,
And are you building that into like a table as part of site
it's
plan
its own
approval?
section.
Okay.
Yeah, the bylaws will look different,
Reformatted.
yep, done a lot.
So if we can, if
But
it's
we
got
can
its
work
own
on something
section, it's
interim.
probably ready. You just
Yeah.
copy paste it, call it interim bylaw, blah, blah, blah. I mean, we did it for the daycare center last, we had a district that should have had a conditional use of a daycare center and it didn't. So we passed an interim bylaw and the daycare center was permitted within months. So we can do that here and then,
So Carrie, is that all you're looking, are you looking for a motion tonight? No, right?
No, we can make adjustments and come back with an interim bylaw.
And that gives you enough time.
cause it's already done, all they have to do is pull it out
Okay.
and call it a.
Well, I'd like to talk to Megan about it too. I mean, there might be a way that we can do both. I mean, we are gonna need the stormwater utility ordinance hopefully approved in May, right? May 2nd is our next meeting. That gives us barely enough time, but it does give us time.
We need it approved before the 60-day, which would be like July 1st is when the next billing cycle goes into effect. So yeah, May 2nd, I think is it.
Yeah. And the zoning thing we can address at the same night. but-
Is your title.
I know it's a lot of reading, and some of the forms that Dan O'Rourke and Emily have been working on are really important too, so.
I I guess, but I like what Corey was saying, if we ever, I guess you can always update these things as needed, right?
Well, ordinances are a lot harder than policies.
Right, but our title would be in, we have to update the ordinance anyway, cause we're not entirely following the ordinance from.
I mean, if you're changing your title, then we need to make the ordinance follow.
Well, the ordinance already has the change of title in it. It
Yeah,
says
we sent it to you
director
with
of.
the change. Used to be a stormwater coordinator. We also found when we were hiring, a lot of people didn't apply because they saw a coordinator.
And they didn't think.
Yeah, I mean, it's an $85,000 department head job, and we called it like almost a.
What basically you'd hire a kid out of college to do.
So are you planning on changing our title?
Yeah.
You don't need it.
Well, we
We're
need
the
to
stormwater-
we need to update the ordinance no matter what, because our current ordinance has reporting to Alan and she doesn't. She reports to Carrie and me and comes up that way, so we need to fix that. And then we wanna, again, we'll probably have a new credit manual where we increase the, my thought process is that we do the credit for the open fields, that way it stays in our billing system, and if they ever develop something there, we're not creating an account at that point. And then also increase, but that can change, increase another 15%, either this year, next year, she's gotta run the numbers, what it would cost us on agriculture.
Is it possible to run that number by May 2nd?
Yeah,
I'd like to get that all done in one shot, and then just get to the part where we build the gravel wetlands.
yeah, so we can have the updated credit manual,
And if we can save farmers an extra 15%.
we'll do
this
the
year.
update on the ordinance to just really bring it into practice, and then we will have the interim bylaw. Okay. Yep.
All right, we have a plan.
No, no.
All right. Thank you, Emily.
You're welcome. Do you need me to stay on for the Act 250 Tanglewood piece?
No, that was just us. If you want to briefly go over that, that just is us being copied on it. There was no decision points I was aware of there.
Okay.
Are you aware of any?
No, there shouldn't be.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I didn't miss something, but yeah, no, we're good. You can.
Okay.
You can fly.
Okay.
Thank you, Emily.
Have a good night.
Thank you. So we're on to C. We're gonna start making progress on the town manager report. Equity and Inclusion Committee, there was a grant opportunity, and one of the other reasons I, other than that, a former select board member, Al, really wanted to talk about this was I had not talked to the two new board members or the new select board about this initiative, and was looking for a little direction. We had talked at length January and February about this effort. Did not take any significant steps since. I was trying to figure out where you want to go.
So is there any interest in
Uh,
moving forward or applying
well,
for the grant?
I thought when we last talked in, was it January, when we did, or no, it was late February. when we did
February
the-
28th.
when we did that, sheet. If there, I was thinking maybe we move forward with the items that were like in red on that sheet we went through. Maybe,
Okay.
and just, pick a few and just, let's just keep working on it. I don't think we just table it totally, but if we just, cause there was a few items I don't think we even started focusing on, or, some easy ones we can do and just, keep it moving forward.
Okay.
Just use that sheet as some guidance and,
I think even the last board decided when we had that discussion that there wasn't any bandwidth for another committee. I think that's part of the reason why we.
yeah, I think we stayed with that document that we
Yeah.
were using. I don't know how everybody else feels. We had a document, I don't know.
So what's this all about?
So Carrie, you can probably explain it better than me.
Yeah, I can. I probably will do it justice, actually, if I put it in your next packet so they understand. It was a template that we followed, and we went down each question, and it was a good framework for figuring out what we're doing, and then also suggesting next steps for us to take, but I don't remember everything in it at this point. But you're right, there was some we basically gave each a score, you know, whether it was red that we didn't do anything, yellow it was in progress, and green, maybe that was already done or something like that, but.
Yeah, there was some stuff we're kind of like unaware that we were actually doing towards this.
Yeah.
Equitable inclusive.
Are we doing right or wrong?
We're actually doing, right. And some stuff we haven't even started.
Well, like a couple
on.
things we were like, if somebody was, say, deaf and needed ASL, somebody to do sign language at one of the meetings, like, we don't even know who to call. So it's like, let's figure out who in the area does that and get that queued up if we ever needed it. And that's a lot of things that made sense that we could actually do that didn't take a lot of work. Low hanging fruit.
Yeah, and I mean, if, I guess if anybody feels that they wanna, you know, pick a, item on that list that's a little more involved, and if Carrie wants to allow someone to work on it, then feel free.
Right.
Or bring it to
I'll
us.
send
we
it,
can
I'll
talk
send it
about
out so you can review it. That's
So
a
you're
good
gonna
point.
you're gonna send something out to Jeff and I, so we know what you're talking about?
Yeah, I'm gonna send it to everybody, cause I'm pretty sure that, we could all use a refresher. Yeah. So I will do that.
I live in a world that's very up to date on this
Oh,
stuff.
okay, I don't.
The university is,
Well, you know what was good about that form that we used is it assumed actually nothing in it, and it let us take wherever we were in the process and move it forward if we wanted. So I thought it was pretty well done. Anyway, I will send it out and we can discuss that on May 2nd.
So Carrie, the one other thing in our packet, there was something about like training, and I think I saw it in the packet.
yeah.
It was about training, I don't know, can't remember if it was VLCT or Northwest Regional Planning. They offered some grant money towards like trainings and stuff, so I guess if the rest of the board wants to move forward with that kind of stuff for the, you know, the employees throughout the town, I guess we could take advantage of that too.
Okay.
I guess it's up to Carrie.
It's up to yeah, but I'm saying, like, I saw that in there, like, you know,
Yeah.
if somebody's gonna give us money to make our employees more aware and do better things, like.
Oh, no, you're right. Corey, there's nobody in the waiting room, is there? Because Al said he was gonna come
No,
tonight.
Al's here, he wants to
Al's
talk,
here.
Carrie.
Okay.
Go ahead, Al.
Our Northwest Regional meeting, right?
First of all, I want to address the question that I thought we were going to talk about, is does the town want to apply for this grant that the Community Foundation is offering, $10,000 grants to municipalities in the state of Vermont? And in that I have the record, what you need to do to apply for one. But it is to offset your costs, to look at what you think you need, then develop a budget and submit a request for $10,000 or whatever it's going to do. This is in conjunction with the Vermont League of Cities and Towns that has a study committee now to try to develop a program for municipalities to address equity, inclusion, justice, and diversity within their individual jurisdictions. And this all goes back to last year, May in 2021, when Governor Scott signed this Declaration for Inclusion and Equity. So there's a lot of moving parts, but for me tonight is just to answer any questions about this Community Foundation grant. Like I said, there's only 20 of them for how many communities there are in Vermont, I forget.
So we could theoretically review the list that we worked on, see what's close, and then put costs to anything that will have costs.
Yeah.
And then apply for a grant to address those items up to $10,000.
Right.
So so when we review that document we worked on February 28th, that's the context we're looking at it in. Is there anything we wanna do, what would it cost, and how does that feed into a $10,000 grant application? That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
And I also brought the information of where the VLCT committee is presently at in terms of their developing guidance for each municipality across the state in support of Governor Scott.
Wow. So we'll be sure to.
We'll look at that. Thank you, Al.
You're welcome.
Anybody have any questions? I didn't ask.
No, I don't.
I'll leave this with Corey.
Perfect.
Thanks. Thank you.
So do we, the next part is,
Challenge of being remote, there were no more questions, correct?
No more questions,
Nope.
Gary.
Okay. D on this report is just a municipal listing of our officials, so just need a quick review of that information and confirmation or corrections if there's any, and we will need a motion approving that list. It's just a Northwest Regional Planning Commission municipal listing.
is everybody right on there? All your stuff right?
My stuff's right.
Yeah.
Where did they see that?
The only question I had on here, Carrie, and I don't know if it's like the same like job description, but Corey Grattan, I know he's like the foreman, but is he technically the road foreman?
No, I don't think he is.
The crew foreman.
He's the crew foreman, right? It's different than the road foreman. Okay, perfect. That's all I wanted
That's
to.
right. I think Alan is our road foreman.
Yes,
That's what
yes,
it
but I
says.
didn't know, cause I knew Corey had a foreman and I didn't know, I was just asking, that's all.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, that's, you're,
So it's
Make a
different, but.
motion to authorize the chair to sign the NRPC municipal listing.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Perfect. The next item is a discussion about advertising. So the messenger contacted us, asked if we wanted to contribute to the business and professionals community initiative, I guess. I know that they've been doing it for a while. They're in their 40th year. I struggle a little bit with how much the town should spend on advertising. I mean, we're different. We're a town. People know where to find us. How do you feel about it?
So what's it cost?
It's anywhere from $400 to a little over $1,000. The flyer indicated
how big of a page you wanted, right?
Yeah.
So,
I'm just
With
looking
the-
at
with
the expense report that Anna gave us today. And the town manager's advertising line is already like $1,200 on over, and we still have to get to July 1st.
right,
So we're at like almost $5,200 on a $4,000 line, so we're at 130% of the total budget. So as much as I'd like to, I don't, like,
Yeah, I mean,
we already blew that budget line, I don't know how.
you know, we're really not a business.
Yeah.
We're government. And, I think people know how to get a hold of you.
They'll figure it out.
Yeah, there's plenty of people. I get calls that just being new, they know where I am. So, I'm good with not doing it.
I'm good with not doing it.
Me too.
And maybe you guys want your picture in and stuff, but I can live without it,
Seems like a place you could save a little bit of money.
right?
So Carrie's not, you're not looking for a motion, you're just looking for either support or no support, so I think you have your answer.
that's correct, right. I heard 2 no's, but I didn't hear anything from
There was a
Brendan.
third
no.
from Brennan.
Okay, all right, good.
Just on the money side of it, like a budget's a budget's a budget.
But I was, I kinda see that as for like businesses, we're
Well,
not,
yeah, too, I mean, like,
Are you doing your business, John? You in there?
I'm not gonna divulge. Well,
Trade secrets.
well, no,
Go on his phone.
my phone rings enough, like, I don't wanna say it does, but it does, like, I don't need to advertise it. Sometimes just the letters on the truck is too much.
that's what my electrician always told me.
That's what, I always wondered for years why guys drive around with no lettering on their truck, I know
Now
why.
you know what.
Yeah.
Like, when those fall off, I'm gonna continue just peeling them off.
Oh,
Well,
you.
there's a plumber, he's got a number right on the truck.
Yeah, yeah.
Call that plumber, my toilet's leaking, his number right there.
Yeah.
Okay, Carrie.
All right, so, the next item is our debt management policy. This is the policy that Corey referred to last meeting.
Yes.
we need-
No, I was just gonna, we didn't make any changes to this one, it was just to talk about and review.
Correct.
As of some of the ones being outdated, this is, it actually didn't say what year it was put into effect, but a good 10+ years ago. My concern with this is that the town shall only take on, total town indebtedness per parcel should not exceed $1,500, which is $5.3 million. This was taken on, I mean, we can leave it. We borrowed roughly $2 million for town hall. So, that would leave us like $3 million of borrowing capacity left. My thought is you could do one of two things. Either make it a percentage of the grand list, like 1% of the grand list is like $11 million. I wouldn't, some people in the area throw out 10% is appropriate. I don't think us borrowing $100 million would be appropriate, but I think that's too high of a limit. But right now our limit's about 0.5% of our grand list. Or just talking with one member, we could also potentially keep the 1,500, but say no debt supported by the general fund shall exceed that, and it wouldn't impact local option tax. And my thought is these things can change quick, but
That's the policy, right?
Yeah.
So we.
But I just think, we're looking at updating all of them. Is 1,500 per parcel still an appropriate number? And we can leave the number there.
Well, it almost should be based on like a percentage.
Well, that's what I said. Like, if we do 1% of the grand list and it grows with the grand list, like 1% would be $11 million. That's more money than we ever plan on borrowing that I know of.
Are you sure it's not based on bond debt?
Yeah, it says debt ratio. It says
we don't owe a lot of money, so.
Right, but what it says is the debt ratio is total town indebtedness per parcel should not exceed $1,500.
Right.
So you want.
We can leave the policy the same. I just think that was one of those ones that was dated. I remember reading it before we went out to the vote last year in town hall and did the number real quick because I didn't know if we were asking for more money than what we were allowed to borrow for. So it just.
I don't know.
I wouldn't like exempt the local option tax. I would just go to 1% or something. But I wouldn't do it until you had a project, and then I change the policy for the project. I don't know. I guess you do whatever.
I like keeping the local option tax out of it.
Well, then you can borrow as much as you want on that, and it's not really subject to any policy unless you create a separate one.
It's still subject to voter approval, right?
Yeah, but you can see in other communities where voters approve all kinds of debt and they don't realize the total amount they're.
Right, it's based on bond debt, and I agree that,
Yeah,
you
but
know,
you can't
you see other
overspend the
communities, and they're allowed to
That
borrow a
number
lot more
was
money
$30 million.
based on
Yeah,
what
but
they owe. It's bond debt.
You're borrowing that whole thing. and that's
Yeah, I don't think.
So Anna, this isn't written just for. This is all types of debt. If we took out a truck loan, it would fit into that.
Not that we have to.
Right.
Not that we have to with the new fund, but that's just. I mean, if you think about it, especially like, I don't know.
It's a good problem to have.
Say, I mean, the north end sewer line is
Pretty
technically
good,
part of that debt limit, and none of us pay it. It's just the users of that. So that's just. We can leave the policy as is.
But that was based on a bond. We're paying on a bond.
Bond is debt, so whether it's a bond or a loan or the combination can't add up to more than $5.3 million as this policy reads, or should not.
So we're left over with like $3 million.
Well, Corey, we have 4,000 parcels, over 4,000, so it's a little more money than that, but.
Well, Molly told me 3560 today. I asked her today, so that's where I got the 5.3 million out of just 1,500 times 3560. Because some of the parcels we count are personal property, which really aren't true parcels.
They really are, yeah. But I just, I don't know. I'm gonna check the numbers. You know me.
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, is this a policy we wanna do work on, or is this one that we're okay leaving as is for a while?
Well, I mean, if you were nervous going into the, you know, last election before.
One before, the
The
one where
one
we asked to
before,
borrow money.
for the town hall, right? I mean, if you had to check cause you worried it's closed, isn't that a little too close? I mean,
I mean, the
think
problem
he
is,
knows the number. It's just
well,
because he never checked.
well,
before.
I know that, but, say if Corey Parent's not here next month or something, like, will somebody else forget? Like, I don't wanna,
Well, they should be reading
I
that
guess it's a
anyway.
policy, well, I know.
They should be doing what he did and reading it and saying, oh, I better do math on that
I
first.
realize that, but you can
I
only
think
read
that's a good
some-
idea, personally. Read it and then say, oh, we can only go $5 million in debt, we need to think about what we're doing. I don't see a problem with that. If we need to
Yeah,
move it up, move it up.
Well, it's
Yeah, I
kinda
guess
like
it's just a policy,
it's like
so
if you
it's
raise the
easy to
debt
do,
ceiling
but-
every time you need to, like the federal government does, you end up 28 trillion or 62 million in the hole. So, I don't know. I'd leave it alone, and then if there's a project that comes up that necessitates debt, this is part of it. Our people that sat here before us did the best job of is keeping us out of debt. And that's why this town's so liquid and our tax rate's so low. They invested in things that grew the grand list, like an industrial park, and made a lot of really intelligent decisions. And now, you know, we're catching up on deferred maintenance and a couple other things that got left behind, and we're doing it without having to create debt because they've developed ways of bringing in cash flow that doesn't come from.
Which allows us to borrow more money if we need it.
That local option tax could pay, I think, could support like 30 million in debt if we wanted it to. If you stretched it for long terms and.
Well, them good old boys, they didn't expect you to use it for that, don't they?
So my question is, I have no problem that we don't want to adjust a policy. We'll start moving into the next one. Do you want us just to leave as is, or do you want to bring it back saying that you reviewed it on this date and that you still agree with it? And so that way they get new signatures on them and it refreshes, so people aren't like, oh, that's a 12-year-old policy.
I think that's fine, that's a good idea.
I think just how do we, because we got how many policies we had, we said we wanted to review them all over the next year, so the ones we agree with,
Well,
just
every
re-sign and re-adopt.
So every subdivision, we get an impact fee, and our debt ceiling goes up $1,500 is another way to look at it too. So as the town grows, our debt ceiling grows just by.
Yep.
Do you need a motion to that effect?
No, I'll
We'll have to re-sign it, you would.
yeah, I can either bring it back next time, or we can get the motion now, and I'll just we'll put it in your packets next time around and have you sign them all, because you got the other new one you'll have to sign too.
Why don't you just bring a fresh copy, that way we can, because then we'd have to make a motion as amended, and we didn't amend it.
Right.
The only thing we're amending is the signature blocks and the dates.
Well, I am gonna add the line that this was reviewed on 4/18/22 and re-adopted.
Fair enough.
So that way people aren't like, oh, it's outdated. No, it was looked at, you made a conscious decision, you wanna leave it the same and move on. Perfect.
On to another policy, the purchasing policy. It's kind of as is, obviously there are not a lot of changes in there. Just looking for feedback on that. We have had department heads ask if we could change the purchase request noted within it a little higher than $250, maybe $500 or something like that, but.
Inflation, that seems to be about,
Go ahead, Al.
This one isn't that old, it is only 8 pages long.
Considering I can't buy a truckload of gravel for $250 or a stick of culvert. And if you put 60 feet of culvert in a road, you got the asphalt, you know, I should be allowed to at least buy the culvert and gravel to $250 is a little low.
Yeah, but that's just a purchase order, right?
Yeah, but am I gonna come to, with every time I'm doing a culvert, a purchase order? I mean, I got,
What's that involve? Just one form?
yeah, every time you do a culvert.
Right.
So you want me to fill out a gravel purchase order, a culvert, and a pavement every time I do a cross
Is
culvert?
that what you're doing now?
Pretty much. I signed for salt. Figure a truckload of salt's $2,000.
Yeah, I thought there was a section in that policy that allows you to do recurring charges a little differently, like salt. I don't think we require you to do a purchase order for every load of salt.
Well, typically you go out for bid for that anyway, right? You don't have to? Or
Well,
you
it's
get the
to,
pricing?
it's to a bid, but you still call in the truckloads. I just want it cut and dry. If I do something, I wanna make sure that it's proper and it's in the writing.
So I guess I would leave it up to the town manager, and if we need to change the policy to make it fit, so it's easier or less of a burden, then.
Well, I'm seeing like number 3, like B, competitive pricing 3. Okay, up to $1,000 you don't have to get 3 bids. 1,000 to 5,000 you gotta get verbal quotes and then document them. And then anything above 5,000 to 7,500 is written quotations shall be obtained from 3 vendors. Bids may be used for purchases under $7,500 if the department head or town manager deems it to be in the best interest of the town. So I think that makes sense. That's a good carve out. And then anything over $7,500, bids shall be obtained unless waived by the town manager if it's for an emergency. But everything other than that goes to bid. I mean, you have to pick one, you know.
Yeah, I think B works. I was talking about C on that same page, page 4.
Yeah, I know, it's just whether or not, like, any of those numbers need to be updated to be higher at all. I mean, or are we doing it? Like, are we filling, every time we spend $1,200 on something, are we filling out that you have 3 quotes, and where you got them, and what the dates were, and what they were? Are we doing that? If we're not doing it, we need to pull that right out of there, and make it 0 to 5,000, or whatever it is, and just eliminate B3, because I don't know that it's, you know, if we're gonna have, I think a big part of this policy review is if we're gonna have it in writing, we need to follow it to a T every time. And if we can't, that doesn't seem like it's necessarily entirely reasonable if you're spending.
Yeah, well.
If you buy a culvert one at a time, or do you have some stacked up here?
Usually we try buying a truckload, but the last year and a half, it's been tough getting them, so you get them when you can.
But Alan's talking more of the writing a purchase order, not like necessarily going out to bid, because you have an exemption in here for public work for like road, gravel, and winter sand.
Right.
Like, I think there's certain things that.
No, but like a stormwater utility falls under this. You're gonna have, every department in town falls under this.
But, I mean, a purchase order is pretty, as someone who's approved sometimes, I like the purchase order because it helps me understand what the invoice is saying.
Well, it's the most transparent way to do it.
And so you see the department head's supposed to fill out, at least the ones I've seen, usually it comes from a bill that got charged on account at Webb's or Ace or somewhere, and it just comes in, and you don't always know what they're buying because the receipt doesn't tell you, so usually you just gotta say, this is what I'm buying, here's the budget code, yes, I signed and approved this purchase, and just helps provide information.
There's issues in this policy, like under A, like, we're still in procedures, but A8, the town shall make an attempt to utilize local vendors where possible. Like, do we do that?
Yeah. We try to.
Do we go to Sticks and Stuff versus Lowe's? Do we go to Total Home Center versus wherever we buy it, you know, like, do we document that we tried to and that we didn't?
No.
I mean,
No.
I think whatever's in here, we should enforce to a T, every time. I think we should go to local whenever possible, but if there's pricing issues, we just need to document it. Like, if one is substantially lower than the other and necessitates us leaving the area, that's gonna happen. I mean, I wouldn't wanna I use Payquins because it's not a used name, but I wouldn't want to pay Payquins $5,000 more than Goss or, you know, wherever for a truck just because it's local. But I'd like to have to document that we tried to go to Payquins and they were $5,000 more. You know what I mean?
think once you get over $5,000, it's going out to bid anyways.
Right, but it's,
So, I mean, there's no question about it. But I'll give you a good example. When we're going with a Ford pickup or something, Barrett's in Swanton will overbid because he doesn't feel right coming into the town, taking business away from Paquins. So, there are loyalty to some companies being within the town.
I don't know that it's necessarily like in the town, cause it says local, I mean, local means the city, it can't mean
It means a
Swanton.
lot of things, it means
Yeah.
Vermont,
Yeah, I mean,
today's world.
you could define it within the town of St. Albans instead of local, if you wanted to. You just, every once in a while, like once or twice a year, you get a phone call from a vendor that says, well, I pay taxes here, why didn't I get, and they might have missed a bid on a website or something, and it might not be our fault at all, but you get that call. So it's nice to have it in policy where you know that you made the attempt and you can supply it and, but, I don't know, just whatever ends up being in here, it's gotta be totally enforceable. And if that requires us going through it line by line and thinking about weeds and situations, then, I mean, the more you read through it, some of it sounds really,
Well, there's gotta be a balance between people being able to do their jobs in
Well, that's
in
it.
a efficient manner, and I work with this same thing at UVM, and it's a bear to deal with getting prerequisites and purchase orders and quotes, and, but it's necessary, cause that's how they know where their money goes.
Right.
So it's an aggravation you have to deal with, but,
it's just like finding that balance and making sure whatever we did to
Yeah.
find it isn't, it's enforceable and reasonable. I just,
But if you take something like culverts, every company in the state has to give us the same price.
and they do.
Yes. So,
Well, I think there's a
doesn't
card
matter
out
if you
for
buy a
that.
culvert at Prescott's or Webb's or
Doesn't matter.
wherever, they have to do the state bid. So,
But
what
you
I'm getting
typically-
at is, if you're putting in a 48-inch culvert in 3 sections, you're talking $7,500 right now.
Right.
A stick of 18-inch culvert 2 years ago was only $205. We're
Right.
paying $365 now.
do we get those all at Webb's?
Sometimes you get them at Prescott's.
I think you can get them wherever you can get them, right, cause of
Yeah, right now.
availability,
Yeah.
it's supply chain.
Anything with a polymer in it.
I mean, most products are under the state bid, construction cones, safety vests, all of that type of stuff. If it's under the state bid, no matter who I buy it from, if it's sticks and stuff or whatever, usually it has to abide by the bid.
So I'm hearing that you actually wanna go through this policy and, go line by line at the next meeting, is that what you wanna do?
No, I guess,
Well, no, cause
No.
I think it needs some work, cause I see
think it
there's
needs
some
work
stuff
too.
in there that,
Yeah.
if it's gonna be in there, like Brendan said, we need to follow it. And if Gary, if you feel that you don't need some stuff in there to make it a little more fluid, I guess get rid of it and,
well, if it's like, instead of having to fill out a purchase rec for a public works item every time you buy it, maybe there's a quarterly one you submit.
yeah, if it's
and,
like a redundant,
Yeah.
But-
buy
something.
It seems like if the stuff you buy under government bid stuff,
So anything that falls under there, I think the only thing that we should make apply is that we tried to buy it local first and we documented why we couldn't. That way if we get a call from FW Web, say we pay taxes, why did that stick a culvert that we drove over not come from us? We say, hey, we called you on this date, you didn't have it, we bought it here, sorry. But,
Well, it should say in there then, like for the road salt, it says, it's, highway district is by the state competitive bid, if that's, that, maybe that has to be in there in a few more places.
Yeah, maybe you add a fourth to that section where it says repair parts.
well, do we even do we don't even use the state highway
I don't use the
competitive
state
bid.
for the salt because I got it cheaper through Montreal.
So there's
It's
all kinds of,
$12 a ton cheaper.
Again, the purchase orders in my mind, like typically what I've seen, especially comes out of Public Works, is you get something after Alan's bought it and we get billed monthly anyway because we have an account, and the purchase order would be for that monthly bill of, well, why'd you spend $2,500 if Alan's bought 35 culverts or whatever he bought? It's all that would need to be on it that one time is all you need a purchase order for.
Well, yeah, just make this policy match that practice. As
That's
long
what
as
I
it's
would-
documented.
I would agree with that. I mean, make it so he can do his job.
Right, he doesn't need to come in every day, but when a bill comes in,
Just
I think
charging
there should still be a
it to
purchase order
town
with the
anyway.
bill.
Right.
So who's ever approving the bill, you know, the warrant for you guys
Yeah, and say
has
you
some
get
understanding.
something that was charged that shouldn't have been, or something's not quite right with this policy, you catch it there anyway. So it's the same protection to the taxpayer. As long as it doesn't get through that warrant, then it's not paid, so,
The
like,
question I would have on this, not to butt in, would be the $999 for no bids. I think Brennan's onto something, cause I can think of when we brought it to the select board, but to have like, even when we did like postcards, there's a very few people who did it, so usually just, you know, when you kinda have one that does your list for you and knows it, you just kinda keep going back to them as long as the price is reasonable, but I think like $1,000 doesn't buy what it used to be able to go out to bid on things. I think that's the only one where I could see.
I think the most important aspect of 0 to whether it's a $9.99 or $24.99 or whatever it is that you tried to buy it local and you should have to document why you couldn't. Like, everything that we buy, we should try to buy within at least Franklin County, and if we can't, we have to go outside of it. There's got to be something. I'd almost like it to trigger like something in writing where you documented, you know, I tried to buy it from this vendor but couldn't, had to go here because, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, that sounds like it's.
Or you could just put it on the purchase order, right, on that form, you could put, you know, I guess, or no, cause sometimes you put do you get the purchase order slip to the person who's buying the product from the vendor?
No, the purchase order usually just is, he
don't.
comes in with a
Carry, and then
receipt.
it goes on the receipt.
Okay, so.
Jen, you fill it out, you get to Jen, and then Carrie or I approve it. I think in the old days, you used to sign a purchase order, have the other person sign
Well,
it, and
that's
then you wouldn't even get the product till after it went through the whole thing. Usually our purchase
Wasn't that
orders,
how-
UVM is.
our purchase
Well,
orders,
that's how this is supposed to be.
yeah, but a lot of times it's,
So we can't. So you're charging stuff before you follow the policy. So that's got to get changed too.
yeah, in some of the cases, yeah, cause it's, people got work to do, you know,
Yeah, and you can't.
you went and
have-
bought gas at wherever or whatnot, and you fill out the
Yeah.
purchase order.
Well, cause there is the exemptions in there
Right.
for public works, and then
But
also,
make
I think towards the
spell
end,
them out a little better.
Carrie ultimately, I think, can just about waive anything as she sees the best fit.
Well, under an
with the town.
emergency, it should be. Well, yeah.
Well, I mean, you can define emergency, right?
It's funny because, you know, over the long haul of 30 years, you know, Carrie, a lot like other managers and administrators, we just got invoices, the select board checked them, and we paid them.
Right.
If that's old school, though, that's old school.
Well, we'll do some work on that, and
Yeah.
I guess you guys will see it again, and hopefully
Yeah,
it'll more closely
My only
reflect
other
what-
thing was RFPs that under the E there on procedures 2 bid opening. We should expand on that a little bit and say, like, there are things like whether it's over a certain dollar threshold or whether it's a certain asset. I mean, we have a disposal of assets policy, but if you're accepting bids for either a project or to sell something, they should have to be opened in a publicly warned meeting in certain cases.
I mean, a lot of the stuff that I've had to do RFPs for is effectively controlled by V-Trans and the federal government. Like, they don't even let us take costs on some things into account.
Well, like
So
sometimes we'll go to buy or sell something and we.
No, I get it, but I'm just like, the RFPs that I've been involved in are engineering, and I'm happy to do it in public, but then usually it's, I don't know if you guys wanna look at all those proposals that come through, that's
No.
half what you pay us to do is to look at them, and they're available for anyone to pull. But,
Yeah, anytime anybody wants to see them, they can, right?
yeah, and we don't spend the money without coming to you, so I think that could.
Are there any new policies that need to be cited in this one?
I don't know.
I suppose the disposal of asset policy could be cited in this.
It's not really a purchase,
It used to be one.
but I think mean, that would just belong under that. I don't see how it's a purchase, but you know what I mean? It's,
Well, it used to be, it just all used to be one policy. Purchasing and disposal of that.
Okay, perfect, yes. Okay, so let's move this to the next meeting. 'Cause we're not getting anywhere. Well, we are getting
Wow.
somewhere, but let's keep going.
We need another iteration.
Before it's 10 o'clock.
thank you.
Okay, got it. That was the last thing, other than your notice of being copied on a few Act 250 filings. Tanglewood, Peter Morse, self-storage and city pool. I have something readed on, there's no motions requested, and I don't have any other surprise items under town manager.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Next select board meeting is Monday, May 2nd and Monday, May 16th, both starting at 6:30. And Green Up Day is Saturday, May 7th. And Alan, do you have bags for that this year, or what are we doing for Green Up Day?
I have them in my office and I called Alan today to come and get them.
Liz and Brett Jackson are both our town coordinators, and their names are on the posters going out and about. And they're meeting people at our garage at 8:30 that morning to hand out last minute bags and go over the areas that we're working on. We do have SASA and the school that's chimed in to help in the Bay Area from Blackbridge on. We'll be hitting like Nason, Bronson, Brigham, and probably around the town school a little bit.
Thank you.
Yeah, when I was in high school, they had the first Green Up Day and they closed the interstate between St. Albans and Swanton. We
Yeah.
all got on there with our rigs, racing. We didn't get much trash picked up. We found out whose car was the best one. They didn't do that another year.
Those bad ideas.
It was fun.
Okay, anybody have any other business? Good. Anybody wanna make, Carrie, are we still going in an executive session?
I don't, only if you need to, I don't have to, I don't have anything else unless you have questions.
That last item, number 11, on your red pen, anybody need to talk about that in executive session?
Number 11.
Well, it's on there, I just,
You mean this?
no, on your red pen, yeah, it would be this.
Okay, yeah, I think we ought to chat about that.
Okay, so anybody wanna make a motion to go into executive session?
I'll make that motion.
So Jack, if you could read that red pen item,
Where
and
the
then,
hell is it?
just,
Where is it?
I'll do it.
Oh, wait a
Okay.
minute, here we go.
thank you.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session to discuss a personnel matter, and to invite, the town manager and director of operations. I think we went through with an attorney on how that was supposed to be done. We were doing it wrong before. I think you're just supposed to cite which of the three you're going for, and only state the premature general public knowledge if that's an actual thing.
Okay, I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
This is the red